the most secret son of Mexican drug trafficking. He grew up playing soccer in a quiet town, without knowing that his dad was the most wanted man in the country. Two names that everyone knows in Mexico. Two figures who marked different eras of drug trafficking, and a secret that, if it were real, would change everything we think we know. Sandra Avila Beltran, the Queen of the Pacific, El Mencho, founder of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, and in the middle of them, a boy who should never have existed. This is not a love story. It is a story of decisions, of silences, and of what happens when someone is born with a surname he did not choose. The story begins in 2003. In Guadalajara, Sandra was already known. She had been moving in circles that normal people cannot even imagine for years. Elegant, calculating, intelligent. She was not one of those who shouted. She was one of those who spoke softly, and everyone listened. El Mencho at that time was not El Mencho yet. He was Nemesio, someone who was learning, who was observing, who still did not have the power he would have later. He worked for others, moved product, but it was already noticeable that he was not going to stay there. He had that look, that way of speaking without raising his voice, but making it clear who was in charge. They met at one of those meetings that have no name, that do not appear anywhere, where people speak in code and everyone knows what is being talked about without saying it. She was there because she had connections with Colombia. He was there because he was starting to build his own with Michoacán. No one knows exactly what happened that night, but something happened. The following months were strange. Sandra started traveling more often to Jalisco. Nemesio started appearing in places where he did not go before. People close to them noticed things, but no one asked. In that world, asking is dangerous. In 2004, Sandra disappeared for a while. 3 full months. She said she was in Colombia, fixing business. But the people who knew her well knew that something did not add up. She did not answer calls as before. She did not appear in the usual places. When she returned, there was something different in her, something in her look, as if she had made a decision that was going to haunt her forever. And what happened next would change everything, but no one knew it until years later. The boy was born in a private clinic in Guadalajara, without an official record, without a name in any public document. There were nurses who signed confidentiality papers. There were doctors who received money to forget what they saw. And there was a woman who handed over her baby knowing that she would probably never see him again. Sandra could not keep him, not at that moment. She was in the sights of several agencies. She had enemies. She had a life that did not allow her to raise a child. And Nemesio could not recognize him either. He still did not have enough power. He was still building what would later become the most violent cartel in Mexico. So they made the coldest decision they could make. They gave the boy to a family in a town in Michoacán, people of trust, people who owed loyalty. The boy grew up with another surname without knowing who his real parents were. They named him Daniel. Daniel grew up in a town where everyone knew each other, but no one talked too much. He grew up thinking that his dad was a merchant and his mom a housewife. He went to school like any boy. He played soccer in the afternoons. He helped in the family store. A normal life. But there were strange things. Every so often, men in trucks that were not from the town appeared. They stayed outside the house, talked to his dad in a low voice, and his dad always seemed nervous afterward. When Daniel turned 10 years old in 2014, things started to change. El Mencho was no longer just Nemesio. He had already formed the Jalisco New Generation cartel. He was already one of the most wanted men in the country. And Sandra had been in prison in Mexico for years after having been extradited from the United States. It was in that year that Daniel heard the name of his real mother for the first time. He was in the living room of his house watching the news with his adoptive dad. A report about Sandra Avila Beltran appeared. The Queen of the Pacific returns to Mexico. His dad changed the channel quickly, but Daniel saw something in his face, something he had never seen before. Pure fear. That night Daniel could not sleep. Something did not fit. The next day, when his adoptive parents went out, he went into their room. He searched in the drawers, in the closet, until he found a box hidden behind some old blankets. Inside there were photos, documents, and a letter. The letter was written by hand with a woman's handwriting. It had no date, it only said, "Take care of him as if he were your own. One day he will understand why I did this. Tell him that I am sorry." It was not signed, but there was a photo next to the letter. A young woman, elegant with long hair and a smile that did not reach her eyes. It was Sandra Avila Beltran, and on the back of the photo in pencil someone had written, "Daniel, 2004. Daniel's world split in two that day, but what he found next in that box was worse, much worse. There was another photo, a younger man with a beard looking straight at the camera. He was not smiling. He had that look that Daniel had seen many times in the news, in reports about violence, about cartels, about the most wanted man in Mexico. It was Nemesio, or Ceguera Cervantes, El Mencho. And on the back, the same handwriting as in the other photo, his dad. "Do not tell him until it is necessary." Daniel closed the box, put it back where it was, left the room, sat in the living room, and stayed there without moving until his parents returned. He did not tell them anything, but everything had changed. The following months were an internal nightmare. Daniel kept going to school. He kept being the same boy that everyone knew, but inside, something was breaking. Every time he saw the news and something about the Jalisco New Generation cartel appeared, he felt something strange in his stomach. Every time someone mentioned Sandra Avila, he wanted to scream who he really was. In 2015, when Daniel was 11 years old, his adoptive dad sat with him one night. It was strange because they never did that. They never talked about serious things. "Daniel, we have to talk." Daniel already knew what the conversation was going to be about. He had been waiting for it for months. "I already know," he said. "I already know who they are." His adoptive dad stayed silent. It seemed like he was going to cry. After a while he spoke. "They asked us to take care of you, to give you a normal life, to never tell you anything. But things are changing. There are people asking questions, dangerous people." "What kind of people?" "From the government? From other cartels? People who want to use you to get to them." Daniel felt the floor move. "What are they going to do with me?" His adoptive dad looked at him with a sadness that Daniel would never forget. "I do not know, son. I really do not know." The things got complicated faster than anyone expected. 2 weeks after that conversation, the trucks appeared again, but this time they were different, newer, tinted, and the men who got out did not talk to his adoptive dad. They took him straight away. They were 3 hours outside in the truck. Daniel watched them from the window of his room. His adoptive mom cried in the kitchen when his dad returned. He had a red mark on his neck, as if someone had grabbed him hard. He did not say anything. He just went to his room and closed the door. That night, Daniel heard his adoptive parents arguing. He had never heard them like that. "We cannot take this anymore. We have no choice. He is a boy. No one deserves this. No one deserves anything in this world. That is how things are." Daniel covered his ears, but he kept hearing anyway. The next day, his adoptive dad told him that they were going to move, that they were going to leave the town, that it was for safety. "Where are we going?" "To Guadalajara. There it will be easier for you to go unnoticed. And school. You are going to go to another one with another name." "Are they going to make new papers?" Daniel did not understand anything. Or yes, he understood, but he did not want to accept it. "Why is this happening to me?" His adoptive dad hugged him. It was the only time Daniel felt him tremble. "Because you were born with a surname you did not choose, son. And in this country that is enough." They moved in 2016. Daniel started to be called Adrian. He had new documents, a new story, a new life. He entered a private school in Guadalajara where no one asked much. His adoptive parents told him not to talk about where they came from, not to make very close friends, not to trust anyone. But Daniel, or Adrian, had already learned that on his own. The first months were strange. Guadalajara was bigger, noisier, more dangerous. There were checkpoints in the streets. There were news every day about confrontations. The name of the Jalisco New Generation cartel was everywhere, and Daniel knew that his real dad was responsible for all that. At school, the other boys talked about the narco as if it were a movie, as if it were not real. They said that El Mencho was a ghost, that they were never going to catch him, that he was the most powerful of all. Daniel listened to them and felt disgust. One day, a classmate asked him what he thought about all that. "I do not think anything," he said. "It is the same to me." But it was a lie. He thought about that all the time. What he did not know was that someone was already watching him. In 2017, when Daniel was 13 years old, he started writing things down. A car that was always parked near the school. A person who appeared in the supermarket every time he went with his adoptive mom. Small things that alone meant nothing, but together painted a picture. He told his adoptive dad. He turned pale. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I have seen them several times." His adoptive dad grabbed the phone and went out of the house. He was outside for an hour. When he returned, he had red eyes. "What is happening?" Daniel asked. "Nothing. I will take care of it." But Daniel knew it was not nothing. 3 days later, the car stopped appearing. The person from the supermarket also disappeared. And Daniel understood something that made him feel worse than before. His real dad was protecting him from afar, without him knowing, without them knowing each other. It was a protection that gave more fear than security. That night, Daniel made a decision. He searched on the internet everything he could about El Mencho. He read articles, watched videos, studied photos. He wanted to understand who the man who was supposedly his father was. What he found did not help him. It only made him feel more lost. El Mencho was not a movie character, he was real. He had family. He had recognized children. He had a wife. And he had built an empire with decisions that Daniel could not even imagine. How was it possible that that man was his dad? And Sandra, the Queen of the Pacific, a woman who had been on the cover of magazines, who had been in the harshest prisons in Mexico and the United States, who had known the most dangerous capos of her time. How was it possible that that woman was his mom? Daniel closed the computer, lay down on his bed, and for the first time in a long time, he cried. He did not cry out of sadness, he cried out of rage, out of helplessness, out of not being able to choose who he was. But the rage did not change anything, and what was coming was going to be even more complicated. In 2018, Sandra Avila Beltran left prison. She had served her sentence in Mexico. The news talked about it for days. The Queen of the Pacific regains her freedom. Daniel saw the images of her leaving. She was no longer the young woman from the old photos. She had more years, more tiredness in her face, but she still had that look, that one that said she had seen things that no one else had seen. His adoptive dad entered the living room while Daniel watched the news. "Turn it off," he said. "Why?" "Just because." "Turn it off." Daniel turned off the television, but it was already too late. I had already seen everything. "Does she know where I am?" he asked. His adoptive dad stayed silent for a moment. I do not know. I hope not. Why is she my mom? Because if she knows, someone else is also going to know, and that puts us all in danger. Daniel did not say anything else, but that night he made another decision. He wrote a letter. He wrote it by hand like the one he had found years before. He did not know if he was ever going to send it. He did not know if it made sense, but he needed to write it. I do not know if you are the one who wrote that letter. I do not know if you are ever going to read this, but I need you to know that I exist, that I am here, that I grew up without you, without him, without knowing who I really am. I do not blame you, or maybe I do. I do not know yet. I just want you to know that your son is alive, and that every day he wonders if you did the right thing. He kept the letter in a notebook and never showed it to anyone. The following months were calmer. Daniel, or Adrian, kept going to school. He got good grades. He had some friends, but he never let them get too close. He had learned to live with that secret as if it were a second skin. But in 2019, everything changed again. The Jalisco New Generation cartel was at its strongest moment. There were constant confrontations with the government. There were videos circulating on the internet. There were operations throughout Jalisco. The name of El Mencho was on everyone's lips. And one afternoon when Daniel was returning from school, he saw something that left him frozen. There was a truck outside his house. It was not one of the ones he had seen before. It was different, more serious, more official. Inside the house, his adoptive dad was talking to two men dressed in suits. His adoptive mom was crying in the kitchen. Again, when Daniel entered, everyone fell silent. One of the men looked at him. He studied him as if he were verifying something. He. His adoptive dad nodded. The man took a photo from his briefcase. It was the same photo that Daniel had found years before. The photo of Sandra with him as a baby. Do you know who this woman is? Daniel did not answer. I am asking you a question. I do not have to answer you anything. The man smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. You are a smart boy, just like your mom. They stayed for an hour more. They asked questions. They took photos of the house. They checked documents. And when they left a card on the table. If they look for you, call us. Do not try to be a hero. That night, his adoptive dad burned all the papers they had hidden. The photos, the letters, everything. Daniel saw it from the door of his room. What are you doing? What I should have done years ago. You cannot erase who I am. His adoptive dad looked at him with eyes full of tears. I am not trying to erase who you are. I am trying to protect you. But Daniel was no longer sure that that was possible. And just when he thought things could not get worse, he received a message that would change everything. It was from an unknown number. A simple text message, without context. I know who you are, and I know where you are. Daniel felt his heart come out of his chest. He showed the message to his adoptive dad. He read the message 3 times. Then he grabbed Daniel's phone and turned it off. Do not answer. Do not do anything. Who is it? I do not know, but it cannot be anything good. The next day, more messages arrived from other numbers, all different. Your dad is looking for you. Your mom wants to meet you. We are protecting you, but not for long. Daniel did not know what to believe. He did not know if they were threats or if it was true. He did not know if he should be afraid or have hope. The only thing he knew was that the secret he had kept for years was no longer a secret. In 2020, when he was 16 years old, Daniel made the most important decision of his life. He told his adoptive parents that he wanted to meet his real mom. They opposed it. They told him that it was dangerous, that it was a bad idea, that it could ruin everything. But Daniel had already decided. I have lived my whole life without knowing who I am, without being able to ask her why she abandoned me. She did not abandon you, his adoptive mom told him. She saved you. How do you know that? Because if you had stayed with her, you would already be dead. Those words stayed floating in the air. Daniel did not talk about the subject again, but in his head the plan was already formed. He was going to look for her one way or another. What he did not know was that someone else was also looking for him, and that someone did not have good intentions. In 2021, Daniel turned 17 years old. He was no longer the scared boy who had found those photos. He had grown up with the weight of a secret that made him different from everyone else, quieter, more observant, more distrustful. He had learned to read people, to notice when someone was lying, to detect when something did not fit. Skills he never asked for, but that had kept him alive. The messages kept arriving. Not every day, but they kept coming. Sometimes weeks passed without anything. Then, suddenly, 3 or 4 messages in one night. Your time is running out. Choose a side before they choose you. Your dad has enemies. You do too. Daniel had learned to ignore them, or at least he tried. But there was one he could not ignore. It arrived on a Tuesday night. It was different from the others. If you want to meet your mom, I can help you, but you have to trust me. Daniel read the message 20 times. It was a trap, probably, but what if it was real? He responded for the first time. Who are you? The answer arrived in 5 minutes. Someone who owes a favor to your family. I am going to send you an address. If you want to go, go alone. If you bring someone, I will not contact you again. Daniel deleted the conversation, turned off his phone, sat on his bed and tried to think. Everything in him told him that it was dangerous, that he should not go, that it was probably a trap to kidnap him, to use him as currency, to get to his dad. But there was something stronger than fear, the need to know. And that need was going to take him to a place he might not be able to return from. 3 days later, Daniel left his house early. He told his adoptive parents that he was going to study with some classmates, that he was going to arrive late. They did not suspect anything, or maybe they did, but they were already tired of fighting. The address they had sent him was on the outskirts of Guadalajara, an area that Daniel did not know, industrial, neglected, with abandoned warehouses and unpaved streets. He took 2 buses to get there. He did not want anyone to track his phone. He had turned it off before leaving. When he arrived at the place, it was an old house painted blue many years ago, with rusty bars and a garden full of weeds. He knocked on the door. No one answered. He waited 5 minutes, 10, 15. He was about to leave when the door opened. It was an older woman, maybe 60 years old, with white hair and a face marked by the sun. She looked him up and down. Are you Daniel? Yes. Come in quickly. Daniel entered. The house was dark. It smelled of humidity and something else he could not identify. There were old furniture, photos on the walls, a table with papers. The woman closed the door with a key. Sit down. Daniel sat in an armchair that creaked under his weight. Who are you? The woman did not answer immediately. She went to the kitchen and returned with 2 glasses of water. She gave one to Daniel. I was a friend of your mom many years ago, before everything got complicated. How do I know you are telling the truth? The woman took an old photo from her pocket. It was Sandra, younger, smiling. Next to her, the same woman who was in front of Daniel now, but 30 years younger. We were childhood friends. We grew up together. Then she took one path and I took another, but we never stopped talking until they locked her up. Daniel studied the photo. It seemed real. Why did you contact me? Because she asked me to do it 2 weeks ago. She sent me a letter from where she is living. She told me that if someone appeared asking about her, a boy your age, to contact him, to help him. Where is she? The woman hesitated. I cannot tell you, but I can take a message. Daniel felt a mixture of frustration and hope. What kind of message? Whatever you want to tell her, I will get it to her. Daniel stayed silent. He had imagined that moment 1,000 times. What he was going to say to her, what he was going to ask her. But now that he was there, the words would not come out. Tell her that I want to meet her, that I need to understand why she did what she did, that I am not angry. Oh yes, I do not know. I just want to see her. The woman nodded. I will tell her, but you have to understand something. She cannot see you now. It is too dangerous for you and for her. There are people who are still watching her, people who know about your existence and who want to use you. Who? I cannot tell you, but you have to be careful. Do not trust anyone, not even me. Those last words sounded strange to Daniel. Why would she tell him not to trust her? But before he could ask her, he heard something outside that froze his blood. Trucks, several braking abruptly in front of the house. The woman turned pale. No. Daniel stood up with a jump. What is happening? Did they follow you or did they follow you? They knocked on the door, hard, desperate. Open up! Federal police! The woman grabbed Daniel by the arm. There is a back door! Run! Do not stop! What about you? I am already old. I do not matter. You do. They knocked again, harder. It seemed like they were going to break down the door. Daniel ran to the back. He found the door that led to the patio. He opened it. There was a high wall. He jumped it with difficulty. He fell on the other side in a vacant lot. He heard shouts inside the house, the door breaking, steps. He ran without looking back. He ran between streets he did not know, between abandoned houses and dogs that barked at him. He ran until his lungs hurt and his legs trembled. He hid behind a trash container. He stayed there trying not to make noise, listening if someone was following him. 10 minutes passed, 20. He did not hear anything. He took out his phone. He turned it on with trembling hands. He had 53 missed calls from his adoptive dad, 20 messages. Where are you? Answer, Daniel. Please, they are looking for us. He called him. He answered on the first ring. Where are you, Dad? Do not talk. Tell me where you are and I will come for you. Daniel gave him the approximate location. He hung up. He stayed there waiting with his heart still racing. Half an hour later, his adoptive dad appeared in his old car. Daniel got in. They did not say anything during the way. When they arrived at the house, his adoptive mom was packing suitcases. We are leaving, said his adoptive dad. Now, tonight. Where? I do not know yet. Far from here. What happened? His adoptive dad looked at him with a mixture of anger and fear. They came to look for you. While you were not here, they said they knew who you were, that they needed you for an exchange, that if we did not hand you over, they were going to return. Daniel felt the floor open under his feet. An exchange. Your dad. They want him, and they think that you are the way to get to him. Everything started to make sense. The messages, the woman, the operation. It had all been a trap, not to catch him, but to force El Mencho to come out of his hiding place. And Daniel had fallen straight into it. But the worst was not that. The worst was that now his adoptive family was in danger because of him. They drove all night without stopping, without talking much. His adoptive mom cried silently in the back seat. His adoptive dad kept his eyes fixed on the road, constantly checking the rearview mirror. Daniel could not stop thinking about the woman from the blue house. Had she been part of the plan? Or was it real, and they simply discovered them? He was never going to know. They arrived in Querétaro at dawn. They rented a room in a cheap hotel on the outskirts. The kind of place where no one asks questions, where you pay in cash and they do not ask for identifications. They stayed there for 3 days, eating the minimum without going out, waiting for his adoptive dad to make contact with someone who could help them. It was on the 2nd day that Daniel saw the news. Failed operation in Guadalajara leaves 3 detained. Authorities were looking for connection with leader of the CJNG. They showed the blue house with yellow tape, with patrol cars outside and the older woman being put into a truck. Daniel felt a guilt he had never felt before. Because of him, that woman was detained. Because of him, his adoptive family had had to flee. Because of him, everything was falling apart. "It is not your fault," his adoptive mom told him that night as if she had read his mind. "Yes, it is. You did not choose to be born in this situation. You did not choose your parents. You did not choose any of this. But I chose to go to that house. I chose to trust someone I did not know. You chose to look for answers. That is human." Daniel did not say anything else, but inside he knew that he had crossed a line from which there was no turning back. His adoptive dad finally got contact, a cousin who lived in Monterey. She agreed to receive them for a while until things calmed down, if they ever calmed down. They arrived in Monterey a week later. The cousin lived in a middle-class neighborhood, a small but safe house with bars on all the windows and cameras outside. "You can stay as long as you need," she told them. "But you have to be discreet, not go out much, not attract attention." That is how the new life of Daniel, or the third life, began. He had already lost count. He was 17 years old and had already lived in 3 different cities with 3 different identities, fleeing from a secret he never asked to have. In Monterey, things were different. His adoptive dad got a job in a hardware store. His adoptive mom started selling food from the house. Daniel enrolled in a public school with another name, Joaquin this time. He no longer even remembered what it was like to be the same. The months passed. 2021 became 2022. The news kept talking about the Jalisco New Generation cartel, about operations, about captures, but never about El Mencho. He kept being a ghost. Daniel wondered if his real dad knew what had happened, if he knew that they had tried to use him as bait, if he cared. Probably not. For El Mencho, Daniel was just one more secret, a mistake from the past, a loose end that was better left like that. But in 2022, everything changed again, and this time it was because of something no one expected. A letter without a return address arrived, without a postage stamp. Someone had left it under the door of the house. His adoptive mom found it in the morning. She opened it with trembling hands. She read the first lines and turned pale. "Daniel, you have to see this." The letter was written by hand with elegant woman's handwriting. "Joaquin, or Daniel, or whatever you are calling yourself now, I know you have been looking for me. I know what happened in Guadalajara. I know you are in Monterey. I know everything. I am sorry I could not protect you as I should. I am sorry I left you. I am sorry for every decision I made that put you in danger. But I need you to understand something. I did it to save you, and I would do it again. Do not try to look for me again. It is too dangerous for both of us. But I want you to know that I think about you every day, that I never forgot you, and that if one day we can meet without putting your life at risk, I will do it. Meanwhile, take care of yourself, trust your family, and remember that you did not choose this life, but you can choose who you want to be. With love." That Daniel read the letter 3 times. He felt a knot in his throat that he could not swallow. It was from her, from Sandra, from his real mom. After 18 years, he had received a letter from his mom, and the only thing he felt was emptiness, because it was not what he expected. It did not give him answers. It only confirmed what he already knew, that he was alone, that he was always going to be alone, that his life was never going to be normal. He kept the letter in his backpack. He did not tell anyone anything and continued with his day as if nothing had happened. But something had changed inside him, something definitive. He no longer wanted answers. He no longer wanted to meet his real parents. He no longer wanted to be part of that story. He just wanted to disappear. And just when he thought he could do it, the news that no one expected arrived. It was July of 2022. Daniel was at school when the rumors started circulating. The boys talked in a low voice. They checked their phones. Some even cried. "What is happening?" Daniel asked a classmate. "Did you not see the news? There was a giant operation in Jalisco. They say they finally caught him." "Who?" But Daniel already knew the answer before the boy said it. "El Mencho. They say he fell." Daniel's world stopped. He took out his phone. He entered the news, and there it was on all the front pages. Nemesio, or Ceguera Cervantes, El Mencho, presumably captured in a joint operation. There were blurry photos, aerial videos of a ranch surrounded, statements from officials, but there was no official confirmation. "It is presumed," they said. "Sources close confirm," they said, but there was nothing concrete. Daniel left school running. He arrived at the house. His adoptive dad was already there, watching the news on television. "Is it true?" he asked Daniel. "I do not know." "They say yes, but they have said that before." They stayed there all afternoon watching every news, every statement, trying to find something definitive, but it never came. The authorities did not confirm anything. They did not show clear photos. They did not give details. They only said that there had been a successful operation and that they would give more information soon. That information never came. 2 days later, the news changed tone. Doubts about the capture of El Mencho. Sources close deny that he was detained. A week later, the subject disappeared completely from the media, and Daniel never knew if his real dad was alive or not, if he was still the most wanted man in Mexico, or if he was now in a cell somewhere. No one knew, or those who knew did not say. And so Daniel continued with his life, with the uncertainty, with the unanswered questions, with the weight of being the son of someone who perhaps no longer existed. He turned 18 years old in 2022. He was legally an adult. He could make his own decisions. He no longer needed anyone to protect him. But he was still the same scared boy who had found those photos years before. He still did not know who he really was. And the worst of all was that maybe he was never going to know. In 2023, Daniel made a radical decision. He told his adoptive parents that he was leaving, that he needed to start over. Far from everything, far from Mexico. "Where are you going to go?" his adoptive mom asked him. "I do not know yet. Maybe the United States, maybe farther. I just know that I cannot continue like this." They did not stop him. They knew they could not. They knew that Daniel had grown up too fast, that he had seen things that no boy should see, that he had carried a weight that did not correspond to him. They gave him money. They gave him fake papers. They gave him everything they could. And Daniel left. He crossed the border with a coyote that his adoptive dad got for him. It was a 3-day trip that he does not want to remember. People crammed in trucks, walking through the desert, hiding from immigration. But he made it. He arrived in Texas. From there he went to Houston. He got a job in a restaurant kitchen. He shared a room with 5 other Mexicans. He lived with the minimum, but he was free. Or so he thought. Because the past never goes away. The past follows you. The past finds you. And Daniels found him 6 months later. He was leaving the restaurant one night when he saw the black-tinted truck parked right in front of the exit. His blood froze. The driver's window went down. A man looked at him. Daniel did not know him, but the man seemed to know him. Daniel did not answer. He started walking fast. The man got out of the truck. "Wait, I am not going to do anything to you." "I just want to talk." Daniel kept walking. The man followed him. "Your dad sent me." Daniel stopped. He turned around. "What?" "Your dad, Nemesio, sent me to look for you. He wants you to know that you are safe, that you were always safe, that he made sure of that." "I do not believe you." The man took a photo from his pocket, the same photo that Daniel had seen as a child, the one of Sandra with him as a baby. "I believe you now. He wants to meet you when you are ready, when it is safe, but he wants you to know that he never forgot you, that every decision he made was to protect you." Daniel felt a knot in his stomach. "Tell him I do not want to meet him. Tell him not to look for me anymore. Tell him I am no longer his son. I never was." The man looked at him with something that seemed like sadness. "He knew you were going to say that. He told me to tell you something else. He said he understands, that he respects your decision, but that if one day you change your mind, he will be there." He gave him a card with a phone number. "If one day you need something, anything, call that number." Daniel grabbed the card. He looked at it and tore it into pieces. "I am not going to need anything." The man nodded, returned to the truck, and left. Daniel stayed there standing in the street, watching as the taillights disappeared into the traffic. For the first time in a long time, he cried. He did not cry out of sadness. He did not cry out of anger. He cried out of relief, because he had finally said no. He had finally closed that door. He had finally chosen who he wanted to be, and it was not the son of El Mencho. It was not the son of the Queen of the Pacific. It was Daniel, just Daniel. And with that, it had to be enough. The years passed. Daniel continued living in Houston. He changed jobs several times. He met people. He made friends who knew nothing about his past. He fell in love with a girl from El Salvador who worked in the same restaurant. They got married in 2025 in a small ceremony with only 10 people. She knew he was from Mexico, that he had crossed the border, that he had fake papers, but she did not know more, and he never told her some secrets. It is better to take them to the grave. In 2026, Daniel is 23 years old. He works as a kitchen manager. He earns enough to live well. He has a small but clean apartment. He has a normal life, or as normal as it can be when you carry a secret like his. Sometimes, when he sees the news and they talk about Mexico, about drug trafficking, about the cartels, he feels something strange in his stomach. A mixture of nostalgia and repulsion. A connection that he cannot cut completely, but he never says anything. He changes the channel and continues with his life. His adoptive parents are still in Monterey. They talk on the phone every 2 weeks. They never mention the past. They only talk about the present, about how the weather is, about how work is going, about whether he has thought about having children. Daniel always changes the subject when it comes to that. He does not want children, not for now, maybe never, because he is afraid of passing on to them what happened to him. He is afraid that they will carry a secret they did not choose. He is afraid that his past will reach them. His wife does not understand why, but she respects his decision. Of Sandra, he did not know anything again. The last news he had was that she was living somewhere in Mexico, away from everything, trying to go unnoticed. Daniel wonders if she thinks about him, if she regrets having given him up for adoption, if she ever really wanted to look for him. Probably yes, probably no. It does not matter anymore. Of El Mencho there are also no clear news. Some say he is still alive, others that he retired, others that he is imprisoned somewhere secret. No one knows the truth. Daniel stopped looking a long time ago. He stopped trying to understand. He stopped wanting answers because he finally understood something important. It does not matter who your parents are. It does not matter where you come from. It does not matter what secrets you carry. The only thing that matters is who you choose to be. And Daniel chose to be someone normal, someone who works every day, who pays his bills, who loves his wife, who tries to be a good person, someone who is not defined by his surname, nor by his blood, nor by his past, only by his decisions. And with those decisions he built a life that is worth living. But there is something that Daniel does not know, something that no one has told him, something that is happening at this very moment while he lives his quiet life in Houston. There are people who are still looking for him. Not the authorities, not other cartels, but someone more dangerous, his half-brother, the recognized son of El Mencho, the one who grew up inside the cartel, the one who inherited the legacy, the one who knows about Daniel's existence and who considers that existence a threat. Because in that world, secrets are dangerous, hidden brothers are loose ends, and loose ends have to be cut. That brother has been investigating, following clues, paying for information, and he is already close, very close. But Daniel does not know it. He continues living his life. He continues believing that he finally escaped. And maybe it is better that way. Maybe it is better to live in ignorance, in the illusion of freedom, even if it is temporary. Because the truth is that when you are born with certain blood, you are never really free. You can flee, you can change your name, you can build a new life, but the past always finds you sooner or later. And Daniel's is about to find him. Time is running out. The decisions he made to protect himself may not be enough. The quiet life he built may be about to end. But not yet. He still has time. He can still enjoy these last days of peace before everything changes again. Because it is going to change. It always changes. And when that happens, Daniel is going to have to decide who he really wants to be, if he is going to keep fleeing, if he is going to face his past, or if he is going to do something he never imagined doing, something that could change everything. But that part of the story has not happened yet. Not yet.